My name is Danielle Ryle, and the title of this presentation is Sore Place: Affective Materiality in Early Modern Women's Life Writing. Early modern women's life writing constitutes a significant portion of the writing by women in England in the 16th and 17th centuries. Given this fact, one would assume that life writing provides a vivid portrait of how early modern women lived and thought. While women's autobiographical writing does include various details of housekeeping, religious observance, and romantic and motherly love, scholars of early modern women have often been stymied by the absence of reflection on life events. Early modern women do not write their feelings about the lives they lived, but instead record a public-facing representation of themselves defined by their daily routine. However, emotional response is subtly visible if scholarly attention shifts to formal and material analysis. This presentation will argue for the application of a feminist formalist methodology to early modern women's life writing, to reveal how formal and material choices made by the writer imply her emotional response. I define feminist formalism as a critical reading practice that directly attends to the formal elements of writing, such as grammar, punctuation, and page placement, to reveal the individual voices and rhetorical positions of women writers. With more fragmented life-writing texts like diaries and household papers, the physical makeup and usage of a blank book can suggest the writer's emotional response to her life. This affective materiality is best exemplified in the recipe collection included in Folger Shakespeare Library manuscript EA1. Folger manuscript EA1 is a mid to late 16th century miscellany of recipes, meditations, narratives, prayers, and accounts in multiple hands. It bears only one signature, that of Anne Denton, the first owner of the book. The manuscript is sometimes cramped and heavily edited, and at other points neatly copied, revealing scribal labor under various circumstances. Early modern miscellanies that begin as blank books were often divided into sections to accommodate the variety of texts the scribe wished to include. And the Denton miscellany appears to have been divided first at the midpoint to make the first half a collection of recipes and the latter half a collection of prayers. The first recipe is dated in the upper left corner, 1564. I hypothesize this is the same year as Denton's marriage, and that the miscellany began as part of her new life as a married woman. Only the first two recipes are culinary, the remaining 12 are medicinal, suggesting that Denton saw her wifely duties as primarily therapeutic rather than gustatory. But one more recipe speaks most convincingly to the life and concerns of the young scribe. Tucked into the back of the manuscript, on 49 verso, is a loan item, still in Denton's hand, and therefore written when plenty of time still existed in the recipe section at the front of the book. A medicine for sore breasts. The implications here are twofold. Denton is pregnant or currently breastfeeding, and she is still young enough to be ashamed of these functions to hide them in the back of her book. The only thing dictating its isolation is the burning cheek of a teenage bride. The recipe itself is short but emphatic. First to notice about this recipe is its use of pronouns. In the earlier recipes, the predominant reference to the recipient of treatment is distinguished by the masculine pronoun or by referring to the patient. In this hidden recipe, the referent is to your breast. This recipe is written with a woman reader in mind who will concoct and use the therapeutic on herself. Denton is writing to herself and joins a lineage of women as the addressee of the recipe. Although the recipes are mostly clear of errors, the final line here includes a doubling that seems anything but accidental. Sore place, sore place. If Denton is the one to add the repetition, it emphasizes both the pain and the place, making this recipe feel more intimate and personal. The slight elongation of the letter forms alternatively suggests a later commentator. Though I argue that Denton turned to the back of her book for a degree of privacy, later early modern scribal readers felt no compunction to respect her hiding spot. Whether added by Denton or a later scribal reader, I read this repetition as an emotional response to the mixing of the material body in the materiality of the manuscript. By doubling sore place, with a bit of space in between, Denton, or a later scribe, visually marks the clogged or chapped nipples that she likely found unrepresented in her copy text. The repetition and enlargement of the second sore place merges Denton's female body into the material space of her miscellany book.